Imagine you're top 1% in basically every metric in Valorant. What would that look like? Clicky aim,
One enemy remaining.
insane game sense, but crouching every single gunfight? This is Primmie, the rank 1 player in APAC for the last 4 acts. He's so insane he even got picked up to tier 1 straight from the ranked ladder.
This is the wild card coming into today.
Let us introduce Primmie. If you guys don't know who he has never played really on the VCT Pacific Arena.
He debuted in his game against Team Secret and they won 2-0.
Primmie, a debut in the knockout stage, and now he's going straight to champions.
Now I'm sure you've all heard at this point that crouching is bad. But what if I told you crouching is good? If you've ever seen Primmie play, this guy crouches in pretty much every single gunfight. And if you weren't looking for it, it looks like he's not even crouching at all. Now there's 2 ways that Primmie uses crouches in his fights. He opens up his peak with a crouch. Take a look at this crouch peak here. This type of crouch is a little bit easier to identify because he goes a little bit lower. In other words, he's committing to the crouch a little bit longer. This is because it's kind of like a deady peek, except he's throwing in that crouch at the end just to change his head level a little bit. When done correctly, it looks very fluid and he's just in and out. So this type of crouch peek is best used when you're trying to contact kills. Now, if they couldn't hear you, you probably would just go for a wide swing because you move faster. But oftentimes in Valorant, you kind of have to just shift walk around and just walk around the map, right? That's why this crouch peek comes into play. Take a look at this round. Primmie's at 45 HP and he's in a 3v3 and he's looking for a kill. You can see how thorough he is on every single angle and he's making sure to add that crouch just to buy himself some more time to go for a micro adjustment. If you slow this kill down, you can see his pre-aim was actually a little bit off, but because he went for the crouch peek, he bought himself a little bit more time so he can actually get that micro adjustment onto the face. Okay, so crouch peeks. Surely that's all, right? He just crouch peeks and then that's what makes him better? Well, not exactly. You've probably heard that crouching in a gunfight makes you a sitting duck. In other words, crouching is committing to a gunfight. But what Primmie does here is he just tap crouches. This means that he can kind of just lower his head height just a little bit and then move and then do it again. It's basically just good movement at that point. Take a look at this round when he's top gen. He's not crouch peeking, but he's crouching on this ongoing gunfight to keep himself alive longer. In other words, he's doing that burst strafe type of movement, except he's throwing in some crouches there to make himself even harder to hit. To help you guys see the effectiveness, I've found some clips from his debut games against Secret. But if you look really closely on some of these, and I'll make sure to slow it down, you can see he's kind of like, his head bobs down a little bit in these middle of these gun duels, and sometimes he gets the insta-kill. You can't really tell, but on an ongoing duel, especially on the Abyss one, you can tell that extra movement actually bought him time to get the 2K. Now this isn't actually the first time I've seen this type of movement. I originally saw it on a Zander VOD about a month ago. Here he's contacting up a main after the one Ways dropping, and you can see he's kind of doing those crouch peeks. As he kind of opens up into the angle, he starts doing those tap crouches to kind of jiggle and get some more info. In my opinion, I think adding the crouches into your movement instead of just unbinding it and ignoring it is probably the next step to level up your movement. And so far from watching all of these pros, Zander and Primmie are the only 2 that I've seen do it so far. If you could implement this into your gameplay, I promise you contacting duels will be a lot easier, and on these ongoing duels you'll notice it feels pretty nice. When I was trying to practice this, I noticed like I wasn't actually exiting my crouch as quickly as Primmie was. So I decided to look up his Wooting settings. And I found out he actually has his left control on 0.1 actuation with the most sensitive rapid trigger as well, which is 0.15. In other words, it's set to the same sensitivity as his WASD. So by looking at this, you can tell he values his left control as part of his movement. And with this change, I felt like my crouches were kind of more fluid and I was going in and out of it much quicker. This does take some time to get used to because it is very sensitive and you definitely don't want to accidentally hit crouch. But if you can get used to it and become a little bit more intentional with it, then crouching can be a good strength for you. If you're curious on his other settings, by the way, he plays on 800 DPI, 0.45 in-game. And based on his last video, he's using the Superlight along with the Artisan Hayate Atsu X-Off. But on his other video, he also uses the Raiden X-Off, so he might just be switching between the 2. Moving on from his movement, I wanted to highlight some other aspects of his gameplay that I thought was impressive. First one is contacting angles. Now let's go back at this round that we saw before. If we start at the beginning, you can see how he works up mid. He's being very thorough with his angle clears here, his pre-aim is very good, and he's throwing in those crouches as he's clearing mid. He even opted for a close wall crouch peek. All of this thoroughness netted him 2 kills. Even after all of that, once he starts working up mid to try to get that Vandal, take a look at the way he clears every single angle. He's very thorough and detailed. By the time he gets the Vandal, you can already feel that he's going to get a kill. And after a few more seconds of checking some angles, he does. He opens up the round, he gets the kill and spawn, and then he tells his teammates to bait him, and then they just run out B and he gets traded and they win the round. But this eco was won off the back of Primmie's insane mechanics and his thoroughness on clearing these angles. Another thing I wanted to highlight with Primmie's gameplay is how fast he can go on attack. Now in this game in particular, he is duo queued with the fade, which allows him to kind of match his pacing with the fade utility. But even on round 2 here against an eco, he's kind of just running it down while following the fade util. You can see he's just dodging the skyblind, he sees the smoke and decides just to run through it anyways. And right as he exits the smoke, you can see he's doing that crouch peek, and then he gets that kill in the sky and opens up the round. Here's another round shortly after. He's waiting for the fade prowler to clear close left, and he just dashes forward to make some space. Take a look at his technique here. He's making sure he gets close to the smoke, but he doesn't want to extend his gun barrel into the smoke, so he's kind of looking at the edge of it. Right as he enters the smoke, he throws in a little crouch and then pivots his gun straight into the smoke just in case there's anyone there. Because he face checked that smoke, he's able to catch the timing on the clove. And then there's the random in the corner, but that's besides the point. You can see how if you have good technique face checking a smoke, it's actually not that scary and it's something that he will do very often. This combined with the fact that he's following the fade util and that's his duo, he's able to have some insane fast pacing on his attack half. I mean, this game in general, they actually ended up winning the half 10-2 and they were pretty much just rushing down sites as fast as possible. So hopefully you guys were pretty inspired by his gameplay here. As you can tell, he earned his rank 1 spot in APAC. But something I wanted to mention is he's actually been doing this for a long time. If you look at his YouTube channel, which I'll link below, his first Valorant montage was uploaded June 27, 2020. So he's been grinding this game for the last 4 years. Now if you look at his tracker, he's actually been high ranked pretty much this entire time playing the game. I think he had some experience playing CSGO before or something like that. But even with that prior experience playing other games, it still took him this long to get picked up on a tier 1 team. Just something to keep in mind for any aspiring players out there that are trying to get better and trying to get pro or just to get better in general. This game can be very difficult, and you can see even with this guy's talent, he's been, like I said, grinding for 4 years. I do recommend you guys check out his channel or just try to look for some ranked games. He actually started streaming on his YouTube. At the time of this recording, he actually streamed for 4 hours on his YouTube, so you can find some ranked gameplay on there. Now something that stands out with Primmie is obviously his movement. This is where the sponsors of today's video can help with that. Razer has just come out with this feature called the Snap Tap mode. This mode will let you select 2 keys that you can alternate without releasing the other key. It might be easier if I just show you. So normally when you hold down the A and D key, your character stops. But with the Snap Tap feature, you can actually hold down A and then press D and you'll just change directions while your A is still being pressed. Well, why is this useful? Well, in a game like Valorant, directional changes is very important. So you could use this feature to help you dead zone angles a little bit easier. Or if you're a legacy like me and you like to counter strafe, this can help with that. Normally with counter strafing, you have to strafe in one direction and then let go of that key and press the opposite key at the same time to have a counter strafe. But with this Snap Tap mode, all you have to do is just press the other movement key and you'll be good to go. This makes counter strafing a lot easier and also a little bit more precise because your intention to stop is when you change directions instead of just letting go of your base key. This new Snap Tap mode along with rapid trigger and low actuation points will allow for very clean and crisp movement in Valorant. If you are interested in trying this out, then I highly recommend checking out the Huntsman V3 Pro, which I'll provide links in the description. Thanks again, Razer, for sponsoring this video.